What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. I'm so excited you could join me today. Today is really exciting. I'm super excited because we are finally going to fix the check engine light on this car. That is right, we have diagnosed the codes P1188, P1189. For those of you who do not know, if you get this infamous pair of codes, you're super screwed. You're so hosed. It can be like a million different things. All it tells you is that it is an air fuel mixture code, which, if you know anything about engines and how they work, there's like 1,000 different places where air or fuel could be disrupted. But on the last day I worked at the BMW dealership, we diagnosed a bad valve cover gasket. That's right, we read the live data, and then we decided we'd go ahead and smoke test it, and once you know it, smoke started pouring out of the back of the valve cover, which is just fantastic. So for those of you who don't know, the BMW valve covers have a specific torque pattern. I did not know this, so when I did the valve cover gasket about a year ago, a little more now, I did not torque down the bolts. Well, I didn't torque them to begin with, which isn't that big of a deal because the bolts generally will bottom out. It's only 10 newton meters, which is not a lot, but there's a specific order you have to do it in, and I just kind of went around in a circle. So of course, I actually think I did it this way. So of course, those back two now have the least amount of pressure on them, which is why the gasket only a couple months later leaked, and I got my check engine light. So if we come back over here, in this bag we have a new valve cover gasket, new grommets, which I didn't do last time, but that's something else you should do in there because these can technically also leak. And then I have new O-rings, of course. We also have another set of spark plugs. I did the spark plugs a couple years ago on this car, but I've kind of run this car in a lot of not really optimal AFM conditions because of the issue I've been having for a long time. So I figured not a bad idea to do spark plugs, and then we're also going to do a compression test. I figured, again, it's been a couple of years. We can just run one, kind of see how it does. Maybe you guys compare your numbers to the numbers on my car. We'll talk about that as we get more into it. And then, of course, we have the complimentary engine cover clips, which aren't really important, but I don't know. It means something to me. Let's go ahead and get into the video. My buddy Steven was supposed to show up to help me with this because I'm currently still technically in surgery recovery, but I guess we'll just see if he shows up at some point. Oh, look who finally decided to show up. Help your incapacitated friend fix his broken BMW. Yeah, okay, he's a little tired. We're actually gonna go ahead and run to the dealer. There's one part I'm actually missing, so let's go ahead and do that. Good old BMW dealer. Rolling up in a E46 to pick up E36 parts. I'm sure this is a fairly common sight. Ooh, a nice Porsche. Got all sorts of stuff here today. Right?
So we're actually currently at the dealership and they are trolling Sonny. They don't have his part. Might be SOL guys. Yeah, so Sonny got trolled big time by the sales associate there.
They almost didn't have the part.
They found it.
We got our nice, genuine BMW barbecue cover too.
Go, go, go. Go, go, go. I believe in you. I believe in you. Now I'm gonna tailgate you because you didn't go.
Okay, so obviously to start, we're gonna take the engine cover off. You just got a couple of 10mm nuts on here. These little tabs pop off. Because we are filming in the rain, when we take this cover off, we're gonna be mindful as to not try to let water in the crankcase because, you know, water in your oil is never good. Throw that back on there. Okay, so once you have your engine cover off, you're gonna take off all your coils and then you're gonna disconnect the coil pack. So Steve and I are gonna go ahead and do that. So what we're doing now, guys, is there are these bolts kind of down here in the center. There's one here, and one on the end. This is for the grounds. They are 8mm bolts. You'll see them in the center when you look for them, but they have these little guys on there. So we're also removing these at the same time. And then I did forget, you have to remove this cover here, which is the same as the engine cover. It's just two 10mm nuts. and then it pops off. So now we got this cover off. I lied, they're actually 10mm bolts, but now you want to take that off so you have access to the valve cover bolts back here. After that, you're going to want to take your coil harness off here. And this, I already got it off, but it literally, there's just a few tabs. It just pulls up, and you can either unplug it from here, or you can do what I'm going to do and then just leave it out of the way. It really doesn't matter. Now that we have everything out of the way, the next step is just taking the valve cover off. Like I said, this is not really that difficult of a job, but you have a few bolts in the center here, and then you have a bunch of bolts going around the valve cover. I think it's about 15 total, I want to say. So we're going to get these off. The valve cover is just going to pop off. And also don't forget that you have the CCV hose here. Otherwise, you're going to pull it right up and you'll tear that thing and you'll shoot yourself in the foot. So we're going to go ahead and unbolt all this, get the valve cover off, and then we'll show you what we're going to do next. Something to note when you are pulling these off, it's very likely that your O-rings and washers are going to, or the grommets, they're going to stick in the hole. What you're going to do if that happens is, I don't know where my flathead went. You're going to take a flathead, you're going to lightly pry it off. You want to make sure you pick these up because you don't want them falling into your valve cover. I'm replacing these, so they're basically trash, but that's just something to look out for. If you aren't replacing them or you don't have them, you're in a pinch, don't lose them because you do need them. It will leak if you don't have them. Well, that whole trip to the dealer was a waste. So we're gonna go ahead and close this now so water doesn't get in, and then we'll kind of talk about everything we're about to do.
The cover isn't on. So I keep moving too fast for Sunny to film, but honestly, like one of the easiest ways to remove one of these is just to grab the loose where one of the bolts went in, just yank up on it, and it'll just start pulling out the rest of the gasket. Makes it pretty easy. Same as the spark plug holes. Just yank it real quick, it'll all come out.
If your gasket is super hard, like it's old, it's been in there for way too long, you can use a little bit of force, like a flathead or something, to help you work it, but just be very careful. It's not exactly delicate, but it is fragile. You don't want to like manhandle it because you will break it. It is plastic. That's 25 years old. Now we have our level, so what we're gonna do is go from front to back here, make sure that it is even all across, which so far, I mean, I think that looks pretty good. It's not really level because I'm holding it up, but like the edge looks straight across. That doesn't look good. Okay, so I do have this on here, and I don't think video is gonna show it. Maybe it's the way I'm holding it. I see a small gap here. Oh yeah, it is very slightly warped. That's on the top half. The good news is that's on the top half actually, so I got lucky here. The part where it was leaking was the bolts being not tight enough. So what we're gonna do with that, I'm just gonna throw a new gasket on there, torque it properly, and fingers crossed it doesn't present any issues. Because new valve covers are $500, and that kind of sucks. If it does become an issue, this job isn't that hard. We can just go back and do it later. We're gonna go ahead and clean this off, and then we'll kind of start throwing it back together and show you what we're gonna do with the spark plugs and everything. Steven's on a time crunch, so we gotta hurry this up. So now we're gonna put the valve cover back on. Thing to note, you wanna put gasket maker around your half moons, kind of around the whole back here, but especially around your half moons. You don't wanna use a ton, just kind of like a little thin layer like he's about to use. Any gasket maker really will work. We're using the red high temp stuff, which is good stuff. And then you also wanna use it around the kind of front bit here around the vanos. And then once you do that, you're kind of good to just throw it back on. You also want to make sure that the whole mating surface is clean, get all the old gasket maker off. That's something else I also did do last time. And we just spent like the past 30 minutes just cleaning this off and all the spark plug holes because it was pretty nasty. It was like 2 sets of gaskets worth of gasket maker on this thing. I just kind of set it on there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on, we're stuck somewhere. Cool. Alright, so we have the valve cover on. We're going to go ahead and grab our bolts. We're going to go ahead and stick these in here. Loosely going to thread them just so they're all kind of in. And then I'll show you how the torque pattern is for this, so you guys don't screw up like I did. Okay, so now we're going to put the bolts back on. I'll flash up a photo on screen, but there's a specific order for these. It's kind of like a crisscross pattern. but I'll put the photo up on screen. It'll have a 1 through 15. Just follow the pattern. 10 Newton meters is the torque spec. You're just gonna do it until you feel it bottom out like that, and give it a couple more turns, like just a little more, and then you're done. These aren't super tight. You don't need them down that tight. What's more important is the order, and that the bolt is firmly seated in there with the O-ring. So we're gonna go ahead and do it in the proper order that you saw on screen earlier, and then we're gonna go ahead and button this up. Alright guys, so Steven had to go to work, so he's gone, but we got the valve cover back on, and I've kind of been waiting here for like an hour, hour and a half, kind of waiting for the rain to go away, and it's not going to go away, so I'm going to have to go ahead and do these spark plugs in the rain. But what we're going to do is we are going to pull the plugs out. We're going to do compression test. Over here I have my compression gauge. I did one on this car about a year and a half ago, and it read pretty good, so I'm kind of expecting similar results, but I figured, you know, I'll show it for the video. You guys can see some numbers of what an M3 with 242,000 miles looks like. You compare them to yours on your guys' cars. I will go ahead and throw the compression numbers up on screen. Overall, they look pretty good. Number one is 170, that's the lowest. I'm not surprised that was lowest because the threads of the spark plug hole actually had some gunk on them, which I'll talk about in a second. So I think if the threads were cleaner, I would have gotten up to 180, which is what 2 through 4 read. My only concern is 5 and 6 were a bit high. 5 was 190. 6 looked like it was about 200, which can indicate carbon buildup. The car was running on the incorrect fuel mixtures for a while. It was running pretty rich. So I would not be surprised if there was some carbon buildup. But I'm definitely going to do some further diagnosing before I make that conclusion and get some more opinions. I'm going to go ahead and throw in the spark plugs, button everything up, and then we'll go ahead and start the car and make sure that it runs way better than before. Give her a quick start. Alright guys, fingers crossed. Make sure it's not in gear. Step 1. Let's go listen to it outside. Well, it sounds like it's idling smooth. The real telltale way to see if I really fixed the issue is we gotta go out and go for a rip. I'm gonna go drive it, get it warmed up, and then let's go do a pull. Alright, here we go. Felt like it was fine. I mean, that was about a little over 5. I think we'll have to do another one to really see if it feels good or not. Okay, that is way better. So we finally fixed the issue. I'm so glad. Actually, after I started filming, the car ran like garbage again, and I had to go buy it sitting on the floor. There's a MAF cleaner. Apparently the mass airflow sensor failed like right as I was about to fix this thing. So it didn't fail. It got dirty, I guess. So I bought some MAF cleaner, cleaned it off. I mean, it's only been a year, but I don't know. I guess it worked. Up top, I mean, it definitely pulled harder than it did before we did all this. So today was a huge win. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment down below what you think. What issues have you guys had with your cars? Anyone else had any P1188, P1189 stories on their BMWs? I know this is a pretty infamous code set, and every time anyone gets it, it sucks. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye everyone.